Welcome to transmission number 28, this time with the real Mage. Hey, how's it going?
How you doing?
Great. So today we're going to talk about Litecoin, the Litecoin Association, and altcoins in general. So recently, Brian Armstrong from Coinbase said on Twitter that Litecoin, Ripple, Stellar, and altcoins are a distraction, and we should concentrate on Bitcoin and sidechains. So, do you agree or disagree with that statement?
Honestly, I disagree with it for obvious reasons because I have my own biases being with the Litecoin Association and being so heavily involved in Litecoin and other alts. Um, I was frankly surprised to hear someone so high up in the community, in the larger, crypto ecosystem, make such a bold statement. And frankly, it was kind of upsetting to hear that.
Okay. Well, do you think that I know I see what you mean. You're upset to hear about it because you're involved with Litecoin. But do you see where he's going with this? What his point is that people need to concentrate on one cryptocurrency versus many. Do you think that's a valid argument, or do you just totally disagree?
I think it's a very valid argument, and I think the message he was trying to convey didn't come out properly. And 144 characters is that the limit?
Yeah, that's true. You
um,
could you can do a lot of damage in 144 characters.
so yeah, I don't think that the message came out properly, and to be honest, I think he should have elaborated a little bit more. What I think he was trying to get at is we have all of this talent wrapped up in multiple factions, not just in Bitcoin. And I think the point that he was trying to get at is if we pulled our talent and concentrated on a singular source, Bitcoin, then we could probably, achieve a lot more than what we're doing right now, which is what he may perceive to be as fracture different communities. Fracture is a strong word. Multiple different communities where everybody's working on the separate projects. However, with that said, I like to take the viewpoint that these communities do help Bitcoin. And I don't think he understands that. It helps him in both a technical aspect and it helps him both in economical aspects. And it does help the larger community, crypto community ecosystem in a whole as far as adoption goes.
Right. So do you think that some altcoins might appeal to some new people more than straight Bitcoin? What I mean is a lot of people talk about on ramps, on ramping, new people to crypto to Bitcoin. And how can you
Mhm.
do that? How can you make that easier? And just with the example of Dogecoin, well, Dogecoin is kind of happy, it's less serious, and for some people, Bitcoin might seem too serious and too scary. FinTech and Silk Road and all this stuff, and you
Mhm.
got the little dog, Ruff, and maybe that's cooler for some people. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's my opinion that alts can appeal to some people more, and we haven't. I don't think that's been totally acknowledged. And they're going to get into Bitcoin anyway if they're into altcoins. Is that what you're trying to say? That it help? How does it help? How do the alts help
Exactly.
Bitcoin?
I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. So with altcoins, and I'll talk a little bit about Litecoin and how I got involved. I came with the second wave, as people call it. So this was essentially the $1,200 Bitcoin run up that Mount Gox created, or as I call them, empty Gox. Um,
Right.
so when that started, and I was really more involved with the technology aspect because I'm very much a hardware guy. I love computers. I love tinkering with electronics. Very much into mining. I read about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin for weeks and just try to understand it. And I finally said, all right, well, let's do this. I'll take my rinky-dinky graphics card, and I set it to, I believe it was Slush's pool, and I mined for a day, and it produced ungodly amounts of dust, just nothing but dust, a couple Satoshis maybe. I said, well, this isn't going to work out very well, so I started looking around, and I found this thing called Litecoin, and I was like, okay, well, let me try this, and then put my graphics card to, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is interesting, and it just got me more and more into it as I was mining and um, gaining a little something for my efforts because it's a mental reward. Um, so I continued doing that. I got more into the hardware aspects, was helping people with their miners, troubleshoot, and everything else. And then I started branching out and getting into more of the technology base and even the economics of everything. So for me, Litecoin was that springboard into cryptocurrencies, into Bitcoin as well, because obviously anybody who is an altcoin supporter is going to be a Bitcoin supporter, whether they like it or not. Dogecoin, they have a completely different viewpoint where they have this very happy community, as you said, and they're very giving and they're very loving, and it's a warmer place than many of the other communities where they're frankly infested with trolls sometimes. So you get a lot of people that look into it and they think it's funny, they think it's cool, and they think, wow, this is really neat, and then that grabs their attention, and then once you get that attention, it lures them in. And I think Dogecoin is probably um, along with Litecoin and Bitcoin, those are the top three in my view, but they're also the top three in terms of bringing new people in for adoption. So, um, very, very important to have altcoins from that aspect.
Okay,
Sorry if I
great.
rambled a
So
little bit.
no, that's great. So I brought up Dogecoin also because, as a lot of people know, currently you can merge mine Dogecoin and Litecoin together. And with the coming of script ASICs and merge mining, we've seen the hash rate of both Litecoin and Dogecoin, really become significant for an altcoin. Of
Hmm.
course, you're not going to get close to Bitcoin with SHA-256 and the massive, farms that are involved. But I think, do you think that has affected the plausibility of Litecoin and possibly Dogecoin staying around a while?
Absolutely. Those ASICs are not cheap. They can run anywhere from a couple $100s to tens of thousands of dollars. And when people put that amount of money into an investment, they are banking that investment is going to pay off eventually. So, you're going to get, and I hate to use this term, but it is applicable in this situation. You kind of get these, I'm going to say negative stuff, then positive. You're going to get these bag holders, essentially, these guys that are running the farms that want to make ROI, return on investment, and they want to continue making money off of it. So you got this large group of folks that have tremendous amounts of money sunk into hardware and time spent on trying to make a dollar. Um, the other aspect of it is that because there is such a significant hash rate, it's really great towards the protection of the networks, the Litecoin and the Dogecoin network. And because there's such a tremendous amount of hash rate, obviously it's not going to be susceptible to certain kind of network attacks like the 51% of tech. Could it still be possible? Sure, if you had some nefarious actors that went out and did certain things, you can still attack the networks, just like it can happen with Bitcoin. But it's less of a chance for it to happen because you have such a substantial hash rate out there for the two networks.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, for some altcoins, they have the problem that the hash rate just isn't there because there's so many different altcoins, and if you really think about it, not all of them have massive hashing power. Especially if you just put it up against Litecoin and Dogecoin right now, there's not many that come close. All those people that are watching, thanks a lot. I want to remind you that you can ask questions live right now. You can go, if you're watching via Google Hangouts or YouTube, there should be something for you to click on YouTube, and you'll come to the Google Hangouts, and there you can ask questions. You can also tweet them at me at Bitcoin Potato, and I will try to answer. We'll try to get those on before the show's over. Going on, talking about mining. And a big topic that is coming with altcoins is, of course, the algorithm, because everyone talks about, oh, is this a script? Is this ASIC resistant? Is this X5000 or whatever the newest algorithm is, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm sure soon, hey, probably after the show, someone will come up with X5000, or and they'll be after that will be X5001, and so, but let's just break it down to two camps. You got the proof of work camp, and you got the proof of stake camp.
Hmm.
And sometimes they're at odds with each other as in a matter of opinion. So proof of work is a waste of energy. It's destroying the environment. It's a waste of money. And proof of stake is the way to go. So of course you're going to be biased because Litecoin is proof of work, and we just talked about hash rates and how that's good. But what's your opinion about proof of stake? And is there a discussion about proof of stake in the Litecoin community?
There was discussion of proof of stake in the Litecoin community, I'd say about a year ago when ASICs were first being introduced to the network. There was a large thread and then a number of shoot-off threads talking about changing the algorithms because people still wanted to GPU mine. And there were a number of outspoken individuals in the community that stated ASICs are coming, the world is going to fall if you let this happen, all of these bad things are going to happen. And the developers made a strong statement, and they said, we're not going to fork. We're not going to fork. We're not going to change our algorithm at all. Um, they also did add, however, that it's something a year prior to it that they've been discussing, mainly because they did see that that was going to be on the horizon, and they wanted to ensure that they were making the proper decisions for the Litecoin community. As far as proof of stake goes, I've did a little research into it, but not too terribly much. Um, it's a very interesting concept. Basically, from my understanding, is you can have a lump of coins that you own, and correct me if I'm wrong, please. You have a lump of coins that you own, and you can essentially stake them, which means lock them down, and those coins are going to be your miner, per se. And every so often you get coins back that you mine. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It's also referred to as minting instead
Minting.
of
Okay.
mining. Yeah, but that's correct. So you, with a wallet connected to the network, are mining, as you were with Bitcoin in the very, very early stages.
So when Dogecoin did their fork, this was also brought up about changing their algorithm to a proof of stake because there was a growing gap between the Litecoin network and the Dogecoin network when ASICs are coming out. Um, and essentially, their main concern was someone was going to 51% attack them, which would have caused havoc with Dogecoin. So proof of stake was certainly something that they decided that they ultimately were not going to do, but it was something that they looked into. And one of the things that I did was wrote a paper and gave it to the Dogecoin community as well as their developers about the different options that they had, one of them being proof of stake. And in there, I essentially stated that from my understanding, the proof of stake uh, the proof of stake algorithm is more susceptible to different types of attacks than the proof of work algorithms. So it was, I can't remember off the top of my head what it was that I stated, but essentially it boiled down to they could be attacked more easily.
Okay, great. So, but there has been this discussion. I think that's an interesting discussion, and it's not going to go away. The proof of work
Absolutely.
versus
And I don't
versus.
downplay any coin that decides to go proof of stake at all.
Okay, great. All right. So, what do you think about things like counterparty and meta tokens that are going on? For example, Bitcoin has counterparty built on top of it. There's also something called colored coins. So you can essentially issue assets or even possibly create contracts, etc., on top of the chain, and therefore you're adding utility to Bitcoin besides just currency. It, Dogecoin has also tried this. There's something called Doge Party, and that you can do some of these things too. Is this a discussion in the Litecoin community about adding meta layers like Light Party or Colored Coins Light or something like that?
There hasn't been any discussion around that, and actually, I'd like to springboard off of something's been mentioned because it plays a intricate part in this portion of the discussion. Before we started, we mentioned about Charlie Lee's tweet, if you remember that, and he mentioned
Right.
that. And then this is another one of those 144 character uh, damage pieces where he stated that Litecoin really doesn't need much more development. And a lot of people took that as face value, that Litecoin doesn't need any more development. What Charlie Lee was basically stating is that the Litecoin core really doesn't need too much more development. And the Litecoin developers work closely aligned with the Bitcoin developers to continue with security, making sure that the wallets themselves are more secure and adding some minor functionality. But my approach to it is this with Litecoin and basically what Bitcoin has done. The developers need to provide that foundation, that core, and then everything gets built on top of that. All of these, what we're calling third-party applications, counterparty, color coins, and everything else. Smart contracts is certainly another one. And I think it's essential that the foundation is rock solid and letting other third parties develop these applications on top of the blockchain. Because if you started making them an integral part of the blockchain themselves, then it's going to be a lot harder. And maybe I'm wrong, but maybe it might be a little harder for other third parties to try to work around those type of core pieces if they were added into the core, like counterparty and everything else. I'm not a developer, so I can't tell how difficult it would be, but my opinion would be is to keep it as simple as possible and let people build off of that simplicity. With that said, as far as Litecoin goes, what we actually did, and we did this a few weeks ago, we decided to create a separate development team aside from the core development team. And that separate development team is the Litecoin Association dev team. And their tasks that they've been tasked, and their mission statement is essentially to build third-party critical applications for the Litecoin ecosystem and network. So that's really how we decided we were going to approach the situation.
Okay, great. That sounds really interesting. Okay, I want to go back to just altcoins in general for a moment.
Sure.
So, we talked about some of the positive things about how that can get people involved in crypto, but there's also some negative things. I mean, how can you tell if an altcoin is a pump and dump scheme or a legitimate altcoin that's trying to do things similar to Litecoin? Or is Litecoin a pump and dump scheme?
Well, I mean, if you ask anybody in the banking industry, they're going to tell you that Bitcoin is a pump and dump scheme. So it's a matter of perspective to me. Um, no, Litecoin's not a pump and dump. I mean, it's been around for as long as almost as long as, well, no, I shouldn't say that. It's been around for a very long time. I mean, it's really has its roots in the foundation of cryptos. It's not going away anytime soon. Um, with that said, markets happen. People do go out there and try to influence the price and try to pump and dump as much as possible because, traders are there to make money. Um, the unfortunate part is really a double-edged sword. These traders in the marketplaces, and this goes well beyond just normal trading and also goes into more advanced trading like leveraging sorry, I can't talk. OK coin does. Um, as I mentioned earlier on in the interview, one of the things when I first came in, I came in during the second wave when everybody was enjoying $1,200 Bitcoins and $50 Litecoins. Obviously, that was an attraction to me beyond just the technology itself, but the technology really, really got me into it. So the price of altcoins and the price of Bitcoin is also an attractive feature for people on the outside. It's one of the key points that we as a crypto ecosystem have to try to bring in a new user base to get people more involved with it. Especially for grandma down the street who really doesn't know anything about computers. I like to use the grandma term when I'm talking about cryptos and adoption. So with all that stuff said, it's an attraction. The traders, they go in and they pump it up to the highs, and people see that and bring people in. The sad part about it is, again, traders are in there to trade and make money, so eventually, there's going to be dumping to happen, and people are going to be upset that the coins that they once bought at $50 are now going to be worth $2. I'm talking about Litecoins, obviously. There's always inflations and deflations, and unfortunately, it's part of natural economic growth. The good part is that adoption doesn't need to happen just because of the price. There's tons of other ways to incorporate adoption. But it is unfortunately something that does happen nowadays. I'm sorry if I veered off the question a little bit.
No, that's cool. That's totally relevant. I mean, that is true. Markets go up and down. Price fluctuates. That's just how markets are. And new markets are typically more volatile.
Yeah. I do have one more thing to add to that, though, as far as altcoins go. So there has been a lot of pure pump and dumps in the past where someone cloned Litecoin and they did nothing with it at all. All they did was change an icon, change the name. Something random off the top of my head, Flappy Coin. Anybody can create a new coin. Flappy Coin was one of those awkward ones. Someone created it, people traded it, made the owners a lot of money. They didn't do anything with the development of it, and it was obvious that it was just there for fun and for making people some money. There are other coins out there, like one of my favorite altcoins, Neoscoin. Neoscoin has a very active developer, and he's doing some things that we're going to see in the near future that hasn't been done with coins before, especially their wallet. And he's got a lot of ideas. The unfortunate part, because the developer of Neoscoin, his handle is called Syntax, he's not a trader. He's like me, very active, but doesn't have that much to work with. It's not a day trader. Doesn't go and pump up his own price by buying his stuff. But he is affected by market forces. Even though he's a well-known developer, he's very good at what he does, but the Neos coin has suffered from pump and dumps in the past, completely unrelated to him. So it's really hard to identify when something is a true pump and dump by the people that create it, or if it's just a mishaps of the market.
Yeah, so there could be, organized pump and dumps, or it could also just be, standard market fluctuation. That's true. It's possible. By the way, we do have one question. It's not exactly related to what we're talking about, but we're going to go for it anyway.
Sure.
Question is, what wallet do you use for Bitcoin?
I use the standard core wallet from the developers, Qt.
Okay, great. And
Because
Mhm.
sorry, I was just going to say the reason I do it is because I support the network, and if you run the Qt version of Bitcoin, and same goes with Litecoin, you're becoming a node, and you actively transmit, node information.
Yeah, definitely. So if you're going to want to run a true Bitcoin wallet and have the full ledger on your computer, then you're going to want to get Bitcoin QT, the core Bitcoin wallet. As another option, if you don't have a lot of disk space, you could go to Electrum, is another wallet that's quite popular. You can also use Multibit, which is also another one. And for your phone, you can use Mycelium is also another one that I recommend to people. As a web wallet, you can use blockchain info. So now we can go into Litecoin. Is there a kind of, Electrum multi-bit style wallet for Litecoin?
We do have an Electrum version, and it's developed by one of the core developers, Pooler, and it's been around for quite a while. I believe not too long ago he just released it out of beta into a full launch. And even when it was in beta, it was still pretty much full. They were just looking for minor bugs here and there. Um, as far as online wallet goes, we have another very um, great supporter. His handle was someguy123. He created Light Vault, which is a online wallet storage. So I suggest people to go check that out. Um, in addition to that, there's another one, the Hive wallet, which is not something that is that's a third-party company, but they do support Litecoin as well.
Okay, great. So I think Hive Wallet is like a multi-coin wallet, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I
Right.
think that's correct.
I have not checked it personally, but it is an interesting idea. Okay, great. So going back to Litecoin and altcoins in general, we've got another topic that comes up, an economic topic, and some people say, yeah, well, altcoins are just essentially making more money. And do we really need more money, more currency out there? Shouldn't we be creating rare commodities, rare money, rather than just everyone generate more and more, and we're just, that's not going to help anyone in the end. And I want to link that together with another topic that is somewhat related, and that is hard cap versus no hard cap of a coin. So I believe Litecoin has a hard cap, and there is a reward halving coming up, I believe, this year. It's scheduled for this year.
Yep,
And
in October.
exactly. And the cousin, or I'm going to call it the cousin of Litecoin, Dogecoin, finished their regular mining and now is going to have a standard reward for the rest of their life, as far as I know. And they do not have a hard cap. So there are different ideologies on whether it's good to have a hard cap like Bitcoin, which is limited, or to go unlimited, no hard cap, like probably the most popular no cap one is Dogecoin. So what do you think about that?
I've got, just like with everything else, mixed feelings about it because there's positives and negatives to both. The hard cap is great as far as economics go because, as you know, the more rare commodity, the more people want to have it. The increase of value that it's going to have. Simple supply demand concepts. There's a limited amount of gold on the earth, and that puts it at high demand, and gold is worth a lot of money. Um, However, something that's always bothered me personally as far as hard caps, and this is just one of the main reasons that makes me concerned about it, is that you have always hear about people that lost their wallets, people that got hacked and the money is now sitting with a hacker, or something happening, a hard drive crashing and they never backed up their wallets. Those private keys are essentially gone from the blockchain. I mean, the coins are out there. They're out on the blockchain themselves, but you don't have the private keys anymore. No one can access it. Essentially, it would be the same as dropping your physical wallet somewhere in the mall, never to find it again. So, Bitcoin and Litecoin is supposed to end its halving completely in about 100 years. So if Bitcoin and Litecoin really take off 100 years from now, while Bitcoin is going to have 21 million coins out there and Litecoin is going to have 84 million Litecoins out there, how many is really going to be out there? Because people will be, I mean, is it, for Litecoin, is it going to be a quarter of the people lost the coins for whatever unfortunate reasons? I don't know. But that just means there's less to distribute. And of course, people can come in and say, well, you can divide, it can be divisible by so many points, 8 points, but that's really not the point of it. The point of it is those coins are just lost. So,
Right. Okay. Well, that's an interesting point. Yeah, that's true. But they are basically lost, and there will, in a way, increase the value of the ones that exist. And that's true. You can't just keep dividing and adding zeros. It's maybe
mhm.
not going to become practical, but you can just make programs that make it feasible to, have millionth of a Bitcoin and use it every day.
Yep. And
So,
that actually springboards into another topic related to this, where I hear a lot of what I'll call them Bitcoin elitists, people that are 100% for Bitcoin, 100% for alts, where they say, it's cheaper to get into Litecoin or cheaper to get into Dogecoin right now than Bitcoin. And then they'll say, well, you can divide Bitcoin up to 8 decimal points. I don't think that they understand or realize, because we're a very technology heavy industry, very technology heavy, with very, very brilliant people. And a lot of those people fail to understand a lot of the human or the psychological aspects of this. While, yes, you can divide Bitcoin up by 8 decimal places, it's not really, it just doesn't grab your attention like it does if you were to have 10,000 Dogecoin or 200 Litecoin. There's that psychological aspect of it. Nobody wants to deal with dust. But if you tell them, hey, I got you 10,000 fractions of a penny, they're going to be interested. You just don't tell them it's fractions of a penny at first.
exactly. Yeah. Well, that's definitely, an obstacle for helping people understand. Just like we saw on, oh, now I forgot the name of it. The guy that did Super Size Me, and he had the nice show about
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Bitcoin. And
I
he
know who
had
you're
to get
talking
kind
about.
of used to it too, because he was trying to get, a shop to accept it. And he said, "Oh, now I'm going to pay you 0.001 Bitcoin." And they were kind of looking at him like, "What's that?" And I remember, the Joe Rogan podcast when Andreas was on there, and he said, "Well, how much is $2.50 if I want to pay for this drink?" And he said, "Well, that's 0.001." He's like, "Why? Why is it 0.001? It's so
Yeah,
weird. You're not going to get people to understand this because they just understand. I mean, it's going to be a shift, and people are just going to have to understand it eventually, or there's
yeah,
going to be programs to help them. But it's definitely psychological. I mean, you mentioned that at the beginning. You could either put your graphic card on, aim it at Slush's pool and get dust, or aim it at a Litecoin pool and actually maybe have a chance of getting a whole coin. And it just feels different getting a complete number than 0.0001826.
exactly.
Yeah, and that's the Dogecoin appeal. It's not that difficult to be a Dogecoin millionaire, for example, and you have a lot of zeros.
Yep.
So that's I think that's kind of part of their appeal. They did the exact opposite of being rare. They just make billions or trillions, I don't even know, of their coins, and then it's a totally different concept.
I
All right,
think
we've got. Speaking of mining, we've got another question.
sure.
Your take on the future of Litecoin mining on cell phones. Is it worth the effort?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Not unless your cell phone is a mini supercomputer. I don't think that you can have enough processing power in phones to be able to realistically mine on the Litecoin network. You can certainly do what I talked about earlier, which is joining a pool and mining on it, and you might get a couple of, I guess they were dubbed light Toshis, but
Yeah,
you're not really going to
Latoshis.
get, yeah,
Latoshis, yeah.
like Toshis. You're really not going to get that much. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. There are. I have looked at it because it's just kind of a funny thing to do. I don't do it actively, but I have two miners on my phone, so they exist. There is one, I forgot the name, that has multiple algorithms that you can mine using the CPU power of your
Hmm.
phone. So you could mine Quark, for example, and there's also Grostal. So it's a really obscure algorithm in coin, Grostal coin, I believe, and the Grostal algorithm. And you might have the chance of mining one Grostal coin with your phone, perhaps. and that's probably only worth a few satoshis, but nonetheless, you mined one coin, so you can possibly do something with the
You
phone.
can do something. I mean, you can mine some obscure coin that is GPU mining only, and then you can certainly trade them in for Litecoins if there's a demand for trading them. Um, but unfortunately, realistically, if you're looking at a proof of work concept, anything that ends up taking off as a success will go through the three standard stages, which is first CPU mining, then GPU mining, and then ASIC mining. And it really has to do with adoption of that coin and how popular it is and how much it's worth and how much people are trading it. Once there is that economic incentive, then the paradigm shift for that coin will happen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The only way to avoid that is to hard fork your coin to a completely separate algorithm. Now, I know a lot of people out there seem to have the misconception that X11 and X15 and X19 and all those other things, because they have all these different algorithms included in it, that it makes it ASIC proof. There is no such thing as ASIC proof. Being a hardware guy myself, I can tell you 100%, if there's a way to create the algorithm, there's a way to create an ASIC to mine it more efficiently. And that's really, that's what humans do. They look for efficiencies, and they try to apply those efficiencies. So Litecoin, when it was going through its shift, its paradigm shift, it was touted as being ASIC proof because at the time it was. It was completely separate from all the ASICs, the ASIC craze from Bitcoin. And there was even, this was actually on the litecoin.org homepage, which is the homepage for the developers and the QT and Electrum wallets. They said that it was developed as ASIC proof until there's an economic incentive. We saw that economic incentive last year, and therefore ASICs were being developed for it.
Yeah, definitely. It's true. It can be sometimes a misconception that things are ASIC proof, but that's not. I think that it also changed in some of the announcement threads. You had anti-ASIC, and there's also another nice one I like, ASIC retardant. That's another nice term I like. Yeah. So, okay, let's move on. Litecoin Association, what is it? How is it structured? And what is its mission?
So, start with the mission statement. The Litecoin Association mission statement is essentially bring adoption, education, and awareness to the both inner and outer communities for cryptos. The outer community being the general world population, obviously. We want to be able to answer questions to help all businesses adopt, to help general adoption, and to educate the public about what Litecoin and cryptos are all about. So we do get involved with limited resources for now. We do get involved with a lot of those different aspects. As I mentioned before, we also recently, a few weeks ago, created the Litecoin Association development team, who's going to be helping building some critical portions of the Litecoin infrastructure. One of them right now, the first thing that they're going to be launching is Litecoin.com, which is going to be there specifically for adoption, both merchants and for people, and it's going to be the one-stop shop listing, exchanges, merchants, wallets, everything that you want to know about Litecoin. And it's going to be a fantastic web page for anybody to get involved with Litecoin and to learn a lot, and for merchants to advertise that, hey, we do accept Litecoins. One of the next things they're going to be working on, and they kind of already started, is Litecoin average. As we know, there's a Bitcoin average, and essentially it takes all of the prices in the critical exchanges, a lot of the higher end ones, and averages everything together in the algorithms they have, and it is a critical tool for a lot of different places out there to get a true understanding of the price of Bitcoin outside of the variances, because you can have slight pumps on different exchanges. So what's the true value? Well, you go there and then you can gain a better appreciation of the true value of Bitcoin. So we're going to be working on that, or I should say they are going to be working on that. Um, as far as the Litecoin Association goes, we are a nonprofit organization that was originally based in Florida, and for the last couple months we have been going through a reorganization of sorts. We are reincorporating into Texas. We are coming out with official bylaws, which we did not have before. And a couple weeks ago, when the new Litecoin Association development team was announced, we also announced our fifth and final director of the board. He goes by the name Noob1, also known as Phil. And hopefully, within the next couple weeks, we're going to finish with that reorganization. We've shut down membership since then, so we were going to be reopening membership. So very, very exciting times for us, working on a lot of different projects and things.
Okay, great. That sounds interesting. So, what do I get when I become a member? Why should I become a member?
Well, that information is in the bylaws right now, and because those are not public, I don't want to talk about that too much.
Okay, that's cool. So, they're going to become public eventually. It's just currently they're not.
Correct, within the next few weeks, hopefully.
Okay. I'm not sure if you know because you said other people are working on it, but I think it's an interesting topic. You talked about this Litecoin average. Do
Hmm.
you know how that's going to be calculated in the sense what is the standard for an exchange to be included? Because you have some averages or indexes now that are not including exchanges that do not have fees. So if you're a zero fee exchange, for example, like OK Coin CN, then it would say, okay, we're not going to accept, even though they have a high volume, we're not going to accept them into our index because they don't charge fees. Do you know if the average is going to be calculated using all exchanges, or how are they going to be weighted? Is it going to be weighted by volume, or do you have any?
My my guess is it's probably going to be the same thing as Bitcoin average, where these exchanges that have 0% fees probably won't be included. Um, my suspicion, and this is just a educated guess on my part, is that because there are zero fees, there's a lot of exchanging of coins internal to OKCoin, which may artificially show some irregularities. And I think they want to get away from those type of irregularities.
Yeah,
Essentially, I'm talking about like price manipulation type of
yeah,
stuff,
of course, of course. I was
volume
just
volume
curious.
manipulation.
Yeah, sure. We have it's called wash orders where you buy and sell to yourself just to create madness, basically. Okay,
Yeah,
without getting too in depth into that, I just thought it's interesting how some of these averages and indexes are going to be calculated and how that's going to play out. I think in the future we'll see more of that coming
yeah.
up.
Honestly, I don't know. When I do find out, I'll certainly let you and everyone else know.
Okay, cool. All right, well, tell us about your upcoming project. You're trying to open an exchange called CoinX with a K, KONYX, I believe, and tell us about what you can about that and your efforts to introduce altcoin fiat trading.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I wanted to tell you the reason why I'm doing it, and then I wanted to talk about the exchange. So, anybody who knows me knows that I'm a large crypto enthusiast. I love working with cryptos, love working with Litecoin. I love, talking to people, helping people out, and everything else. And I really want it to be a part of my life beyond what I'm doing right now. And for me, in order to dedicate more of my time towards cryptos, I need to be able to have um, an alternate source of income from my day job because I do work during the day and it takes up a large portion of my day, 40 hours a week plus, including driving. So what I'd like to do is basically open up the exchange and hopefully be able to make enough from that in order to work on Litecoin and cryptos full time. So with that said, CoinX, something that we've been working on for several months now. I put together a team of very talented individuals, three software developers and one lawyer, and we have been, frankly, working our asses off trying to get this completed. Um, CoinX is going to be a fully regulated exchange in the United States, and we're looking to expand out to Canada and Europe as soon as possible. We are working closely with FinCEN to ensure that we're following all the rules and everything is appropriate. We've also looked into the US EU safe harbor compliance regulations, and we've even researched some of the SEC laws to make sure that they're not applicable towards us, or they are applicable towards us. So, we've done a lot of research, and like I said, we're going to be fully regulated, unlike a lot of fly-by-night exchanges where you don't know who's behind the exchange, and, one day they could just up and leave. We are having obviously we're going to have Bitcoin on there, but we're also going to try to focus on altcoins because there's a lot of exchanges that do focus on altcoins. I mean, that's kind of their bread and butter, like Cryptsy or Bittrex, but they, at the end of the day, they're Bitcoin exchanges. So one of the interesting features that we're going to have at launch is not only are we going to have trading pairs, all trading pairs for Bitcoins, as everyone does, we also plan to open all trading pairs for Litecoin and Dogecoin as well, which is going to be an interesting concept, and I'd love to see how that actually works out from a business perspective compared to other exchanges, because there are no other exchanges that opens up all trading pairs for any other coin. Ever since the collapse of MintPal and the whole Moolah issue, the Dogecoin community really didn't have, as far as I know, something to lean on as far as an exchange goes. So I'm hoping that Dogecoin individuals would come on over and utilize the exchange. So on top of that, I can't talk about it too much because it's security, but we're very security oriented. One of the reasons why it's taking so long to get everything launched is because we're putting a very, very, very large focus on security, especially after what happened a few weeks ago, where there was like 5, 6, or 7 different exchanges within a week that got quote unquote hacked. And as far as fiat goes, we won't have it at initial launch. However, shortly after, we will probably have that incorporated into the exchange in one form or another. We are talking with another business right now in order to help that adoption. And we do have some really great ideas, but nothing is finalized yet. But we do plan on having fiat, and we do have some idea of how to incorporate it, but again, the details are kind of out in the open right now as we're doing discussions. And obviously, I can't talk about the business partner just yet because nothing is finalized. So
Okay,
I'm
fair
really,
enough.
yeah. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Okay, well, it sounds really interesting, so we'll stay tuned. There's not a lot of altcoin fiat pairings in a big dimension. There are a few, like Litecoin is a common one, but it
Hmm.
would be interesting to see an exchange. And you want to do Doge and Litecoin pairs for all pairs. That's an interesting challenge to bring liquidity to those pairs, but you never know what could happen, right?
Yep.
It's interesting. All
Yep.
right.
And
Well, do you have any final words for anyone out there, regarding any of your projects, Litecoin Association, or anything else? And tell us how we can get in touch with you and what websites we should check out.
sure. So I guess as far as final words go, I want to thank you very much for having me on. I greatly appreciate it. And anybody who's listening, either now live or is going to be listening to recording, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking and love answering questions. As far as final words go, there's one thing that I like to say that seems to be missing from a lot of the communities, the whole crypto community as a whole, is that regardless of what coin you're working with, it doesn't, don't go out there and actively bash other communities. This is something that I see time and time again with multiple communities bashing multiple other ones. People need to realize that we are literally one big family in this small piece of the Earth's population, and we really need to come together and work together in order to bring more adoption to the general public. When you do this bashing of other coins, it's really counterproductive. And, I just want people to think about it. The next time you say Dogecoin is a joke or Litecoin has no value, think about it that we're really just one big family and we're all working towards adoption in one form or another. Bitcoin might be here 100 years from now, but it might also be replaced by something else. I have no idea. The underlying technology, however, I can certainly, you know, say with 100% certainty that the blockchain technology is definitely here to stay. And Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, and anything else are really just products of that technology. So, with all that said, I thank you again for having me on. This wasn't mentioned at the very beginning, but my name is Andrew Vegetable. I go by the Mage on Bitcoin Talk and Litecoin Talk. I go by the real Mage on Twitter and Reddit, basically because the Mage was taken. And if you guys want to get in contact with me, you can certainly find me on any of those platforms. And just send me a PM. I always answer PMs when people send them to me.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. And I've already linked to your Twitter in the description, and I've also linked to the Litecoin Association page in the description. So anyone watching, you can already check that out and get in touch with Andrew and talk to him about Litecoin and so on. You can also check out links to World Crypto Network and Transmission in the description and my personal Twitter. Please remember to thumbs up and share this video. Also subscribe to World Crypto Network and check out the other shows on World Crypto Network. And if you're interested in sponsoring the show, then just get in touch with me. Maybe we could work something out, depending. But currently, this show is run on donations. So check out, I've got a Bitcoin address and a Litecoin address in the description. If you enjoyed the show, I would appreciate any tips you can spare. If you want to change tip me, that's cool. But I would prefer that you do it on my Twitter. And thanks a lot for watching. That was Transmission.